So what I want to go over today is just a couple things on sandblasting and that's getting prepped for powder coating. I watched a lot of videos on this before I got started, did a lot of research, kind of setting up my third bay in my garage for powder coating, working on this Jeep right here. And so there's lots and lots of parts that need to get cleaned up and powder coated or painted or whatever it is I'm going to do with it. And watched a lot of videos in terms of setting up the sandblasting setup, the powder coating booth, the oven, and I kind of set up my own stuff. It works great. What I didn't really see was any videos or much background on sort of the patina that the sandblasting puts on it and that prepping it for the powder coating. I see a lot of questions online about people talking about outgassing and the surface and things like that. And so I didn't really find much online that really talked about and showed what it looks like. So I just thought I'd just kind of go over a little bit. This is a bracket. This is, the gas pedal bracket inside the engine that the cable goes to the carburetor, just kind of setting up the accelerator. Anyway, so I pulled this out. I got a couple different things on here, a couple different brackets and stuff like that. I just wanted to show you before. Again, this is, been in there for 40 years. It's had all kinds of grease and grime. It's not too bad. It's not really rusty. It's in pretty good condition. So I'm going to go ahead and clean this up and powder coat it. But what I wanted to do is show in a before. Again, this is super raw, super dirty, things like that. You definitely have to clean this off. Sandblasting is by far the best thing you can do to create that textured surface for powder coating, or in my opinion, even for painting. And it's so difficult if you're trying to get a wire wheel or you're trying to use degreaser or things like that. You can do all that. You can get a wire wheel or sandpaper or something like that in there. And I was doing that for a while on a bunch of pieces before I got my setup. Sandblasting works so much better. It's so much faster, so much cleaner. It's really the only way to go. So, if you can possibly afford it, again, it doesn't really cost that much money to set that up and have the space. You sort of have to have the space too. I kind of make it work in my limited area. Highly, highly recommend. But again, so here it is. I mean, look, again, this thing is awful. How are you going to get into all those little nooks and crannies with any kind of other kind of cleaning instrument? The sandblasting, again, you just blast right through it, and it creates this perfect patina. I mean, it's just like this gray color. It's super dull. It's got those fine little nubbins on there that the powder coating can really latch onto and connect up, because that's exactly what you want. I mean, powder coating is basically just a plastic coating. And if it's super smooth, you sanded it all down and you've wire wheeled and stuff like that, the powder coating is not going to adhere as well to the surface. So again, I just wanted to show, so that I had those in the sandblaster. Just want to show, and I've been trying to keep all the bolts. So I basically just sandblast really quickly the bolts. Again, they get that same thing. I can get into all the nooks and crannies. I can get all the oil, whatever rust is on there, whatever grime. I mean, these things are nasty when I pulled them out of the engine, and it just cleans them up super fast. And also just kind of a quick comment, like, you can take this surface now that it's clean. Again, what I do with the bolts generally is I then run them under my little wire wheel. So I have it on my drill press. I just start it up, just something like this. In fact, I'll show that. Again, there's so many different ways, and I've seen so many different people how they have their setup there. So I just come over here, I turn this thing on, and it takes, about 30 seconds. And I can shine up the bolts and clean them up, and so it pulls that surface right off there super, super quickly. So that kind of tells you how delicate and how fine grained that surface is for it. But again, the powder coating, this is ideal. I mean, most places when you look online, it's going to say, yes, sandblasting, it's the perfect, creates a perfect kind of surface area for powder coating. So I just wanted to talk about that for a second, just kind of show what that looks like. I need to maybe do a tiny bit more cleanup on this. But again, you can get into all the nooks and crannies. Then you tape off what you don't want to have powder coating on, like I might tape off the little nubbins here and wire wheel them, but so they don't get powder coating, so they turn a little bit more easily. Anyway, so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show real quickly what that looks like and how that's great. Oh, I also wanted to mention about outgassing. Again, there's, you get to see lots of different opinions. Do you outgas before or after you sandblast, or in between, or whatever it is? And essentially outgassing is pulling all the old oils and grease and whatever else to the surface of the metal. I mean, this metal is, even though it's steel or iron, it is porous to an extent. And you can kind of see that's all in there. You could go ahead and you'd probably be perfectly fine just sandblasting and going ahead and just setting up for powder coating and powder coat it. What I generally do is, in fact, these were also part of it. I will generally, again, this is just my approach. I'm sure many people would disagree or have better ideas, but my approach is generally to do a quick sandblasting, get any paint, big paint chunks, things like that, and other old powder coating off of there, and then go ahead and put it in the oven. Usually I have 4 or 5 pieces that I'm doing at a time, so while I'm cooking one piece or one bracket for its 10 minutes or whatever, I will leave a couple of the pieces that I'm going to be doing in there, sort of to outgas it. So again, I did another video on my smoker, but I just go ahead and just kind of set up the brackets or whatever for that I want to outgas here. I'm hanging here, whatever I've powder coated, and I just kind of set it up. Generally what I might do is, before I put the powder coat item in there, they say that the whole idea is that what you don't want in when you're doing the powder coating is you don't want those oils and things like that to come to the surface if you haven't outgassed it while you're powder coating, while it's in the oven. So then again, it's going to create that separation between the powder coating and the metal surface. So the idea again is to kind of burn it off a little bit. Again, you have to get this up to 400, 425, somewhere in there, depending on what powder coating you're using. And you don't want that stuff coming out. So they say to put, maybe 50 degrees more, like maybe 475 to 500. So I'll get it up to 475 or 500, and I'll leave the stuff in there for maybe 20, 30 minutes and just let it cook off. I turn it off and I let it come down the heat. But to try to bring that stuff to the surface after I've pulled the paint, that initial sandblasting, the paint and the powder coating off. And then I put it back into the sandblaster for a final sort of cleaning up. And so I've already outgassed these things, and I did a kind of final powder coating, sandblasting on them, and they turn out great. Also, you can see me touching this. Maybe it's overkill, but when I pull stuff out of the sandblasting cabinet, I try not to touch with my hands. I just use a paper towel or something like that, transfer it. I blow it off with the air. I pull the hose off the back of the sandblasting cabinet, and I basically just blow off any dust or glass bead that might be still on it, and then I hang it up for in the coating booth to go ahead and coat. Again, it's just kind of, I think it's the right way to do it, because you're going to get oils and things like that from your hands on there, and you just don't want any contamination. Again, maybe it's overkill, but that's what I do. Again, you can see me handle this. I'll probably just toss it in the sandblaster for 30 seconds and do a quick. I mean, you can already see my fingerprints making little marks there. So it doesn't really take much to get something on there or to rub off that surface. So I try to handle these as little as possible. Again, I can just go straight to hanging them. Don't touch them with my fingers, and then kind of go from there. So I hope this helped. Just kind of another view, just another opinion, another take on sort of outgassing and sort of that patina that's on there after sandblasting and prepping it for powder coating, or really prepping it for paint as well. I think this is probably a very good substrate for painting. So you can just go straight to primer and then to paint.